funny.
That is staying in. Welcome to Blacklisted Conversations. Today we're talking about Daughters, a very powerful documentary about black fathers in prison and their journeys to their one-time opportunity to dance with their daughters. My name is Akua Gyamfi, founder of the British Blacklist. And to my left, I didn't know my left and right. I have...
I'm Richie Brave and I am a presenter and broadcaster.
I'm Kevin Morosky and I'm a visual artist and director.
I'm Marvyn Harrison, I'm the founder of Dope Black Dads.
I'm Nii Ayikwei Parkes, I'm a writer and a dope black dad.
I'm Natalie Rae, co-director of Daughters.
I am Angela Patton, co-director of Daughters.
Let's get into feelings first. Guys, you've already fed back to me that I broke your heart for making you watch this documentary. But in your own words, can you guys just give one word that describes how you feel after watching Daughters?
I would probably say my word would be tender in multiple different ways.
Me?
Ooh. I don't think one word's going to do it because it's one of those things that you feel two things at the same time. I felt bereft, but I felt elated at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine is transformative, definitely.
I think duality and duality and the racism. It made me think about the racism that exists within duality, and that is to say, the film is called Daughters and the subject matter is about what it's about, right? But this film is more than that.
The duality?
Yeah, it really is about the human experience, so we can't just box it into this.
Are you fighting me on saying, give me one word?
Sorry. Well, you can't,
What's the brief?
I'm so sorry, but it's such a big film, so when you said one word, I was like, you're not having a laugh.
Because it helps to hone it in, because you have to really think about, what am I feeling? Because I would cheat. I would be like, I feel emotionally, duality, this, everything you said. But for Natalie and Angela, how does it feel hearing these feelings and these responses to the film?
I can give you one word, accomplishment.
Yes.
You know, when I hear what all the brothers have to say, that was the goal, is tenderness, you know, forgiveness, it's joy, you know, and it's also all of these emotions, and I just don't know which way to go because there's laughter in it as well, you know, so I think that we have accomplished something.
For me, it's just kind of, it's overwhelming and so beautiful just to hear like the emotional response, honestly. I'm just so thrilled that this piece and the work and the time that these fathers and daughters spent like opening up so much pain and trauma and everything that they went through is like resonating. And so, yeah, just grateful.
So we spoke about afterwards. What about before, when you guys heard, okay, there's this documentary called Daughters, and it's about black men in prison and their journey to interacting with their daughters in a more efficient way. What were your initial kind of thoughts or fears about it? I was
expecting something more, when I say documentary, I mean more like factual.
Right.
I wasn't expecting a story, and I think because the pacing of it, I went in, and then there was points where I felt like I was with them. And I host men's circles, so I know the power of men discovering something together in real time. And that's why I say transformation, because I could see the men, they're not the same anymore. Like, I wasn't the same anymore. I've done this work and I still watched and left feeling expanded my understanding, even for me.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say I probably mirror what you're saying. I mean, my experience is so specific. I used to work with men in prisons and in the criminal justice system. Yeah. So what that facilitator did in that program is that was exactly my job for over a decade. Wow. So going in there, I think my expectations, I've seen it done, or I've seen the subjects broached, but I've never seen the subject broached in this way. So for me, I walked in there not really knowing what to expect. And there was a part of me, if we're being really transparent, expecting to see something that I've seen before. Right. But the thing that did throw me off was daughters being the subject matter. So that's what made me think it's likely I'm going to see something different. Everything's always focused on the men, and the daughters and the mothers and everyone else is an afterthought. And for me, the fact that it's called Daughters and the focus is on the daughters, I was prepared to cry. Basically, I wasn't sure. I had 101 different thoughts, but I was prepared to shed tears, and that I did. Many.
I really am in this phase where I avoid black trauma anywhere. That's not to say that I'm not talking up about the things and doing all the things. It's just anything that's like, oh, that's also black trauma and also violence. I'm like, I'm not really interested. So I was apprehensive, I guess, and just a little bit like, I know that I have to do this and this is gonna change me. And it did, same, just to echo everything the guys have already said. But yeah, just a bit apprehensive from that space.
I mean, like Kevin, I kind of felt like it could have the trauma thing, but its directionality was hope, and that's why I watched it. But I knew I was going to cry because I have this thing since my dad died over 30 years ago, that when I watch a parent-child moment, it doesn't even have to be father, daughter, whatever, I will cry. My kids know this about me and everybody else, and I cry easily anyway. So yeah, I mean, I could have put a cup there and I could have made a brew afterwards with the water coming out of me.
You were just like
So I was, I was expecting to be moved because I have a predilection to that anyway. But then I think there are lots of other things within the film that I really found moving, which I didn't necessarily expect. And I think one of the key threads, which we'll probably talk about, is kind of the roots of dignity and how that's given and taken away in so many different instances.
So the girls wrote a letter to the sheriff and just said, well, we're going to ask if we can take a dance in the jail. And he said, no one has ever requested something as powerful as this moment. Absolutely. I would not say no to you. I want you to remember that. But this came from innocent minds of little girls who are saying that they want to be with you. They want to share it with you. They want you to show up. They want to count on you.
We're going to get to the origin story of how Daughters came to life, but hearing these guys, maybe fears, maybe reluctance or anticipation, what were some of those fears, reluctance and anticipations you had in bringing Daughters to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think not knowing where it was going to go and what impact the dance was going to have. And so that was like just a big one. Kind of Angela had gone through it so many times and was like there to be such a partner going, it's going to work and it's going to have this impact, but you don't know, and you just, stay close to the girls and the human stories. But it's just so powerful after all this time that it's this full film. And again, like we really leaned into the hope and the resilience, and it's all the spirit of the girls. So it always felt like we knew it was going to be a really powerful, hopefully positive, uplifting film.
Yeah.
Were you, Angela, fearful of this possibly becoming a black trauma porn piece?
I would say no, because I wouldn't have it that way. Where I have the advantage is I'm working with black girls every day, and I'm trying to protect them from always being in a position where they have this not only trauma within the society, but also trauma bonding, right? Sometimes young black girls can, lean on each other and just stay stuck in what the world is not doing for them and what their parent is not doing for them, and they feed off each other's energy. And so in my organization, Girls for Change, the goal is to shift that. And so because I've been able to do that for 20 years, when Natalie approached me about being a co-director, I immediately understood that I had an opportunity to not only change that for girls, but to also make sure that the world no longer saw another trauma-triggering film, and also changing the girls, as you said, being the forefront of the conversation. Because whenever there is a conversation about fatherhood, most likely it's about the father and the son, right? It's always this uncomfortable type of feeling when fathers and daughters, especially in the black community in USA, it's like this, they hypersexualize black girls so much that they don't even think a black father should hug their daughter, right? Because that means something, something going on there, right? But what I have is a sensitive father too. He cries for and like everything. You can get up and just sing a happy birthday song. And he just like, oh my God, that was just so great. So I just was like, I know that there are more black men like that, right? Yeah. I know that there are black fathers who really show up for their daughters. And so it was an opportunity for me to release other fears, right? And to stand my ground and just be like, this is the time to show people something that I have the advantage of seeing every day. Yeah.
What were your initial conversations about how this was going to be presented to the world, from a editorial filmmaker's perspective and then from an emotional mental perspective?
Well, I think initially when Angela and I got together, it was all about the wisdom of these young girls and the strength and resilience, and we saw, meeting all of them, so much imagination and this ability to know what they needed to heal, and they do that in all of their own ways, and you see that in the film with Santana doing best dance, and Aubrey has such an imagination and gets so involved with math and different things like that. So I think that really guided us with this theme of imagination, the theme of touch, and the things that were the sort of layer of like subconscious connection to their fathers. So we wanted to make sure that we were really honing into the emotions of each girl and showing the differences, and also this like collective feeling of this wisdom and strength that they had, and then weaving in this sort of layers of memory and touch, and again reinforcing what the dance would do, ultimately be this memory and this connection to love that they could take on for their lifetime. So it was kind of it's somewhat of a complicated structure, but you know, we were lucky with these girls that Aubrey's 5, Jayana and Santana were 10 and 11, and Rosiah was 15. And their emotional arc also kind of fed from one to the next. So you have this like idealism and wonder and whimsy of Aubrey, then you have this like anger and resentment that is so articulate and strong with Santana, and then you have this depression of Rosiah, like she's kind of given up hope. And so that was it. Kind of just, the girls gave us a very clear structure into like how to introduce them and how to weave them throughout the film. And then of course the dance and the fatherhood circles gave this beautiful way to intercut. So the film really had like a wonderful structure already embedded with the girls, and then with the father's journey in the dance. Of course, I think after the dance became, how are we going to tell that? How long are we going to film? So that was when we really had a lot of conversations. How many years are we doing this? Is COVID a part of it? Keith might pass away. He's got COVID. All these things started happening. So it took a long time to just capture all of it for another 4 or 5 years, and then really hone in on, okay, what are the specific beats that we really need to show afterwards?
Could I ask over the guys, just if you have a quick anecdote of a time when an emotional idea met business necessities, where you had to kind of figure out the line of where emotion meets business, where you have to kind of put an emotional thing, but with finance and audience in mind.
Yeah. That's my job every Sunday. So like on my radio show, it's focused specifically on the black experience in the UK, and those conversations are often really emotional. I mean, I did a show on grief, you know, and it was on my sister's birthday, and she died about 2 years ago. And for me, it's that kind of like, I know I've got this job to do and this thing to put forwards. But I'm in my emotions, but I need to be able to offer the best possible healing to the person who's listening to the narrative and the story. And I think that very much played out in watching the film as well. Even with Aubrey's a great example of that, because she's so vibrant in the beginning, and it's something that you want to show throughout the film, but you saw the light behind her slowly slip away. It was one of the most heartbreaking things to watch. She was so vibrant and so talkative, and you saw that start to slip. She started to go into herself a little bit more. As a filmmaker, you could decide not to show that because it's going to upset the audience, but there's a necessity in displaying that story. So I'd say for me, there was a cross between the two. I experienced that often with the subject matters I speak about, and I saw that directly in the way that you presented Aubrey's story. There was no narrative behind it, there was no guiding, you just presented it in a way that's authentic to Aubrey, and in a way that the audience, I think, needed to receive.
Do you know? Go on. No, I was going to say it was really interesting because when I launched Dope Black Dads, it was like a selfish endeavor. It was like I needed help, and then I spent the next 2 years helping everybody else, and I didn't get help. And then when it all fell apart, and I was standing there, being like, "What about me?" It was like almost that sentiment. But you know, you're paying people, you're funding things, like you've become all of these things to so many people, and you're trying to really make that balance. And so there's a lot of sympathy. Like even when you're talking about being on radio, I think I saw you post that day, and I was just like, to be human for others when you don't want to, like you just want to collapse, you want to give up. And I think that's something that happens in masculinity in a way where the expectation is you can't let it drop. And in that, that's weakness, that's not vulnerable anymore. Now it's weak and you're unreliable, and it can have other adjectives that impact your future. So, you know, putting on my armor in life has harmed me probably more than it's helped me. And so, yeah, that really resonated.
So understanding that, Angela.
Yes, I do.
What's your response to what they've just said about?
Yes. Well, you know, before a co-director of Daughters, I'm a founder of a nonprofit in the U.S., and I'm just like, oh, wow, I'm feeling you, brothers. You know, one of the things is I have to take care of me, right? You're absolutely right about putting the armor on. So you explained it from a masculinity perspective, but I'm gonna explain it from a black woman that have to save the world every day, right? And is expected to do so. And especially when you say you want to start a program to advance opportunities for black girls, the expectations are very high, but the resources are very limited at the same time. And so you have to continue to show up and really show out. And so one of the things that I discovered, and, you know, before the 20 years that I've been doing this, is that self-awareness and self-care is key in order for me to wear the armor well and to keep up showing up for my community, but also make sure that I'm a model for the girls who also see themselves as paying it forward. You know, and I'm just like, girls, you can do this, but we got to take care of yourself first. So even with Daughters and making sure that the girls that started the dance, when they created this, it always was about like, what do you want? How are we going to take care of you? Even if your father rejects this dance, you know, even if you're a girl who doesn't have a father to come to the community dance, who else is in your life that you think could, you know, be a stand-in dad, right? And that allowed them to understand that their power was to always see themselves first before they go and pour themselves into the community, because you will collapse, you know, and then how helpful are you at this point? But I've also been able to accept learning and unlearning. Also being able to have appreciation for my community, specifically my family, who also has to do a great deal of sacrificing, you know, for me to be able to do the work, and has been just a part of my village. So I would just say, find your village brothers, you know what I'm saying? And that will always be, you know, your go-to when you do feel like you can't move forward again. And they will reintroduce you to you. That's the goal.
That's what power is when we talk about girl power. We're not talking about making a man feel less. We're talking about being creative and just trying something new and being impactful in a way that we've never thought about before.
Let's get a bit behind the scenes of how Daughters, the machinations, the blood, sweat and tears, the money.
So much blood, sweat, and tears.
And
money?
The money. We said money. So let's get on to the money, because this, again, it's a story about black men, black girls, prison, trauma, pain and joy and uplifting, all that. And it's a documentary. Can you tell us about the journey to getting the finances to getting this story to life?
Well, I guess Angela and I, for the first few years, were trying to get the approved to film a dance, so that took a while. But then when we actually got the facility in Washington, D.C. to say yes, they wanted to start the program like the next week. So we had so little time. And we're like, great, it took 3 years and now we have a green light and now we have to start shooting next week. But I was so lucky at that time. I got my start in like music videos and like some short form like commercial work. So my like music video production companies heard about this and thought it was just such a powerful story. So I had 3 or 4 of them come on and I'll pitch a little bit of money and help us get through like that first 6 months, which was really the program with Angela, the fatherhood circles, the dance, and getting to know all of what happened with the families up until the dance. So that was like amazing that we had so many people were like fighting to kind of be part of it at the beginning, because it was such a beautiful story. So yeah.
So I think Kevin and Nii, you're authors and telling stories that have to be, you know, getting support to tell stories that are commercially viable, but emotional to yourselves and personal to yourselves. what has your journey been like trying to find the financial support and telling stories like that? You do.
I mean, it's a funny one because, well, especially as somebody who writes poetry and fiction, it's the kind of thing where if you go for the money first, you might lose your way. So you have to believe in what you're doing. And I think that, you know, what Natalie and Angela are describing is the luck of your vision being seen where you get the support. But a lot of the time you just have to go with it. And I think with documentary makers, even when you do have the support, the one thing I admire about documentary is like, you have to have so much patience because you're going to be shooting for so long. You're going to have all this material.
Known at that time.
You have so much material and then you have to edit it down.
Yeah.
And you're not even sure how the story is going to shape. You're going with your heart all the time. And I feel, for me, that was so similar to what we do in poetry, which is one of the least paid art forms as a writer, is poetry, you know. And I felt that resonance because of that. Yeah, so I think, you know, it's one of those things. My first novel was a kind of detective novel. And after that, the offers I got to do a series, because it's the kind of thing that goes commercial, I'm like, that's not how it feels to me. I'm just not going to do a series because it's possible to do a series. That's not what I'm going to do. And, you know, yeah, you pay for that. So the fact that I still watch my bank balance now is because I didn't say yes to that, right? But I feel
want to respond to it.
I just wanted to respond. Yeah, I think what you said. You want to go, Angela? Sorry.
You can go.
No, just I think it's important what you said about not letting money into your craft, obviously, so early on. And when we were more tight on funds, or when we had to just do it our own, it was a blessing because we'd had that help at the beginning, and then it was COVID and it was impossible for people to help us. But that made us so much closer to just the purity of what we were doing, having no crew, just being, you know, ourselves with the girls, and that like galvanized and really created the film that we have. So I think it was a balance. If we had the support like easy all the time, it wouldn't have been the film that it is. So we're also grateful for like the time it was just us.
Yes. I just wanted to respond to you because that's a lesson that I think a lot of individuals that are founders or leaders of nonprofits specifically, that or anyone who has to raise funds, right? It's definitely about not selling your soul. And I just wanted to my response is thank you for that, because it's very easy, especially when you're Black and raising funds, right, for you to just get caught up because it's not easy. People don't knock at your door usually. You're the one that's trying to do the research and have to find, again, a village. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I know for us in the U.S., the village doesn't look brown and black, right? And so it's very easy for some of my colleagues to fall for what I call the okie doke. And then they look up and say, why haven't I achieved some of these goals? Because you can say no too, right? And so you cannot accept every offer when you know that it's not aligned with the bigger picture. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and helping me, you know, even though I'm kind of hardcore with it, it's great and refreshing to hear someone else understands that you have to know your truth, you know? And so if I would have probably accepted the first film director who reached out to me from seeing a TED Talk who wanted to do a jail film, I wouldn't be here with you all.
That must speak to you when it comes to POCC, the company that you formed. Give a little bit of insight into that and whether this has been a kind of...
I think I agree with everything that you said. I think regards to like POCC and the work that we do over there, whether it's the agency or the not-for-profit side. POCC stands for People of Culture Collective, and so we formed that 6 years ago, which started just as like a WhatsApp group trying to find other Black and brown creatives, myself. And that really stemmed from being in advertising spaces. So we're now 6 years on with like over 1,000 members across the UK and the US while doing creative work. Regards to being in those spaces, and when it comes to conversations around money and support, those corporate clients, they hate me because I bully them in a way that I see they have bullied skin folk. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. What do you mean? But it's a great opportunity. There are so many spaces we turned down. We turned down so much money in the year of looking for a new best black friend, aka 2020. We turned down so much money because we were like, you're not going to be here in a year from now. You're not going to be here in 2 years from now. So it's really, really difficult though, because also we're all tired.
Yeah.
We're all tired. So it's like this check that comes along could just be like, oh great, we can do that. But realistically, I like going to sleep in peace and waking up loving myself in peace. And I know that some of the things, if we had said yes to them, wouldn't be able to do that. Also, what comes along with money sometimes, whether that's for anything to do with POCC or filming or to do with books, is those people, yes, they come bearing gifts, but as soon as that thing is exchanged, all of a sudden it's, well, my money's involved, so I control your creative direction. And I don't know if you've noticed, the people with the money aren't very creative. Like, they're really
That's why they
not.
got the money.
That's why they got the money. It's like, we need to flip that around, because it's like, you know, so, and it's just really difficult, I think, specifically as a black artist, as a female artist, as any kind of artist that is from a part of a subculture, or minority in that sense, it's really, really difficult, because it's always a dangling of a thing. And then also though, I need you, now you've come through the door, I need you to forget the morals, you're in the cool club. And it's like, but innately I feel like naturally our calling is to, no, I want to keep the door open, and I think more people should be coming in. So it's just always that kind of battle. So ratings to everybody, because it's not easy.
No, thank you.
So for a project like this, and exactly that, people who understand the mission and put maybe morals before the money, how did you find the right crew to support you in building and bringing the story to life? Because I think that would have to be important, that they have to understand what they're dealing with, the sensitive topic, the people, they need to have time, they need to have patience. So it was 8 years in the making. So how did you pull together the right crew?
I think we got 2 parts.
Yeah, totally. Like every person that came into the set, into the project, had to be, you know, there for the right reason, have experience, that right energy. Like, it is so sensitive, and we know how much like anyone in the room would impact the people in the space. Our cinematographer, Cambio, Michael Fernandez, he's amazing. He grew up with family members incarcerated, and he kind of, I didn't know him, and then I just had a call, and it was like through his agent, which was weird, because I thought for sure it's got to be a friend of ours that get, you know, our little family of like people filming and stuff. And he'd heard about it, and he just like put us to tears, just talking about his own childhood and his, you know, knowing what it was like to like have to go through security to see his relatives and be apart from some of his relatives and stuff like that. So, and he also then brought in this other theme of dance, because he really was attracted to my music video work, and he was like, oh, I really feel this like power of like the dance and like what's been in our bodies and like our ancestors, and I just feel that like that is such a healing tour, and how wise. And he was like, I could see all these layers, and he was just such a beautiful artist, and it made me also re-inspired and saw this whole other side of it, and just like gave me chills talking to him. So that was like a divine connection. It was meant to film this. And so with the fathers, often Angela and I wouldn't be there, and he would just sit down and like be with the guys and, you know, film when it felt right to like pick up the camera and stuff like that. And then our other crew, like in DC, some of them had been formerly incarcerated at that facility. A lot of are just like emerging filmmakers, and some guys that had also like been in that system. So yeah, it was just sort of an organic way of finding the right people to be on our team and keeping it really small.
Yeah, and what I would like to add is, you all could probably definitely see in our long list of credits, which is fun for me because I love to see all the people go down the Soul Train line. But when I'm looking at the list of credits, and you know, people have come up to me and say, how did you get Jessica Seinfeld and Joe Egerton and, you know, Black Thought? And one of the things I would like to say, that it did not come from like dropping names, right? You know, going back to the integrity. These are all celebrities and actors and producers and very resourceful individuals, but what actually led us was their heart. You know, Joe, for an example, saw that my TED Talk, just like Natalie, reached out to me, understood that I was already in this partnership with Natalie, and just said, okay, we can still do something later, but how can I help you today? Right? Those types of things I'm really attracted to. Ask me what I need, because I'm the one on the ground doing the work, and they were not telling me how I can help you because I'm this person. And so Joe actually helped purchase the suits for the men. You know, he was in the back helping them get dressed. He was learning about the program and learning about me as the founder of this organization, and has truly supported the girls in my organization by allowing them to come see him on a set. You know, careers that are in the film industry that Black girls that I work with would have never known existed, right? That to me makes my heart just thunder, you know, right? And then you have someone like Kerry Washington, when they asked her to come on with one of our production companies, XTR, I had already seen her work. You know, fortunately, when President Obama was in office, I was invited to the White House often around the Women and Girls Initiative. And I always saw Kerry up there fighting and being an advocate for, you know, women and girls. And I was always attracted to that. And I wanted to meet her one day, not because, you know, she was Olivia Pope, but because she was actually doing the work, right? And I was like, wow, here's a woman who every time they ask her to come, she keeps showing up at the White House and giving us jewels and gems. And so when she was presented, you know, and they said, we think Kerry would be great, I knew immediately she would be. And when I had an opportunity to meet her, the research that she had already done on the criminal justice system, you know, and what it had done to Black men, and, you know, how she felt that her resources and her platform could actually, you know, shift some the narrative, I was, again, immediately attracted to that. And then my relationship with Black Thought actually was from a friend who actually has a girl program in New Jersey. And she was like, hey, I think you should meet him. He is on my board. And we were actually trying to get the Roots, y'all, to perform at a dance in the jail. And then COVID happened. So when someone kind of reintroduced him, I was like, he already knows about the program. So I sum it up to just say these were people who cared, who already were, you know, doing the work. Even Jessica Seinfeld is doing work around Black fatherhood with her Good Plus Foundation. And so I just feel like we all are aligned, and we're not dropping, you know, dollars and dropping names for them to just rise above the bar. It's really because they see that we need to come together and do the work. And it is, you know, it's work that's not only needed, it's extremely behind.
You have a white woman and a Black woman. It's a Black story, it's a Black initiative. How did you guys trust each other and understand each other's stories in order to bring this authentic Black story to life?
Yeah. Well, I would just say that Natalie was the only woman, loved the brothers, yeah, loved the men, that reached out to me, and I loved her email. Okay. Right? The email, she knew immediately to send to the girls, and that they were the, you know, the wise ones in this. She was the only film director that reached out to me and was willing to come and see the program, meet with fathers that had been in the program in the past, the sheriff who allowed us to have the first dance, just to do her research, right? And I was like, okay, again, someone not coming here to save the day, but someone just coming to just figure out how we could partner. And when she offered me the opportunity to co-direct with her, I understood that my voice would be included, and that even the production companies and other producers would actually be guided by us, right? You know, like you said, they give you the money, give you your name, and then they tell you what to do, right? And she understood that, right? And then I was also attracted to her tenacity, and I believe over the time we built the trust, we both are leaders, right, in our own special way. So you have to know when to get out of the way, you know, and you need to know when you need to push a little harder, and we had to lean on each other's strengths. And I've been able to learn so much about the industry, right? And so I don't see it as a white woman, I see it as the right woman. Yeah. You know?
Oh, that's sweet, Angela. I mean, like, Angela gave me my first opportunity to make a film, you know? I was like in my 20s and I was doing music videos, but then trying to get like a brand to pay me to do an ad. It wasn't cool to be like a female director at that time, and I was like having a really hard time getting opportunities and being able to make money. And I could do the creative stuff, but I couldn't turn that into like surviving and making a living. And so I really, you know, felt so passionately about this story. I really heard the girls. I could really feel their strength and their wisdom, and I just connected with it so much. So I was just really honest and like flew out and like told Angela how passionate I was about it, and I was so grateful that she was like, yeah, you're a young woman, I want to give you an opportunity. And so that was like huge for me. And I think then my role was more about listening and investing time and not knowing anything. This is not my community. I'm from Canada and Vancouver, and I hadn't been to Richmond, and I hadn't been to DC, and I hadn't been in a prison or jail before. But I'd spend a lot of time helping to tell young women's stories kind of all around the world. And I'd worked with Melinda Gates, and I'd worked with the UN, and was doing some of interesting PSAs and that kind of thing. So I was really passionate about it and felt like the father-daughter relationship just in the world might be a place where gender equality would start happening. Because I was working with some girls in India and then Iran, and it was often like fathers, when they had a daughter, they were starting to change their mind about seeing women as equal. So I kind of had seen that side of it a little bit. So yeah, I just was able to then start traveling and spending time with the girls and with Angela. And that's why it took 8 years in part 2, because you can't skip time and learning and like connecting with everyone. So that was just my role to do that and try to help these girls' voices tell the story.
You showed up wanting to do the work.
Yes.
You just wanted to do the work. Like, that was your goal. It wasn't, and then we'll get this, and then it will be this. It was, sorry, what star sign are you?
Well, I'm Sagittarius.
And what are you?
Aquarius.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I like to start to be a talk later.
I just want to say, I was like, okay, let's go around the room.
I got excited.
Just speaking to that, because guys, I'm sure being in a Western world, and especially all of us are kind of work in a space where we're black issues in quotes first, we're black people first in the various projects that we work on, but yet we have to be open to collaboration. We have to be open to sharing, and whether it's women and okay, I want to work with all women, but there's some men out there that might be able to get on the journey, or if it's just being black and working with other white people in the space who understand it. Can any of you guys share a time when you've had to kind of adjust your whatever it is to
Do you know what's
expand the idea?
really powerful is when you said it was the right woman, it really resonated. So like when I launched Dope Black Dads, we did 3 episodes of our podcast. So this is 4 months in, and 2 Jewish women helped us write our press release, and then gave us a list of people to send it to. Then a white British woman wrote our first article in the Guardian, and that went absolutely all over the place. And black women have carried us. We're only really validated by black women saying that this is actually what it says it is. And the people that are doing the work are doing the work. So intersectionally, those lines don't exist in that way. Right. We know who we're primary serving, and we need to make sure that we're honoring the people we're trying to serve. But I think beyond that, it's like everyone should kind of pick up a shovel, which is why I'm so broad with my strokes in terms of how I support. And that's why I created Men's Circle, because I wanted to speak to more men than black men, because I realized actually black men have more equipment to deal with day-to-day challenges than non-black men. Like we're used to hardship in a way. We programmed ways and tools of responding. And like in COVID, a lot of white British men in their 50s were like, Marvyn, this is really tough, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. And in my head, you're in your farm, like, it's silly ideas of like, you're on a farm somewhere thinking about life. But really they were struggling, and they didn't have any tools or friends or circles to lean into. And so I was like, no, create a WhatsApp group, gather, Zoom calls, go for a walk collectively. Like I was just telling them what to do, and they were like, thank you so much. So I think that, we need the intersectionality really helps us grow and become and create the impact that we want to create.
Yeah, anyone?
I would say for me, I came up through community, right? Yeah. So I didn't come up through the media. My background is community. I worked in my community from when I was 16. And this is going to sound so dramatic, but I'm just going to say it. That lots of people didn't make it out of the community. Are no longer here with us. And when I say no longer here, some of them are no longer alive. And some of them are lost as a result of what they experienced. And you learn, when you come up through that, you learn at a very young age, your community needs what it needs. I don't care the person I care about your morals, But if you are able to give my community what it needs to empower it and bring it forwards, I'm gonna work alongside you. So I think what you're saying in terms of the integrity, embedding the morals, listening, trying to understand people's stories. You know, you said it wasn't about being a white woman, it was about being the right woman. That's what I came up through. When your community needs to change, when it's a life or death situation, and we saw that in your story. So one of the young girls said she went up to a rooftop and she wanted to commit suicide. She said, well, not commit suicide, but wanting to end her life, right? When you understand that it's a difference between life or death for people in your community, the faces that are in front of you no longer matter. This is about survival. So for me, in terms of what I do, it is in the media, but it's rooted in heart and community. And if you are someone that can stand alongside me and bring my people forwards, then we're gonna work directly together. 100%. So it's never a question of what you look like, it's a question of what my people need.
To add to that quickly, I think it stems in the same place. I think growing up, extremely poor, council estate. Brenda next door is like brethren, like you got sugar, you got ketchup, like,
And shepherd's pie.
So like, yes, race, of course, was a thing, but also the understanding that we're all poor together. And I've never lost that foundation. And realistically, I think I can say confidently, everybody in this room, in front of camera, behind camera, hates white supremacy.
Right.
White supremacy's ugly little brother is capitalism.
Absolutely.
So for me to follow the money, like, isn't an option. I follow community, I follow feeling, I follow
Impact.
evolving. Like, am I better than yesterday?
That's right.
Okay, maybe I don't, we were talking about this before we started, I don't get all the flowers that I should get for the thing, but actually I'm still part of the story, because even if you one over here sees what I'm doing and then you're like, I can go and do great. I think it was Tupac that said that thing about I've sparked the one. I can't remember exactly what the quote.
I know.
And I think that's the thing. So when you were talking about your relationship and what you were saying, I was like, no, I know who you are, and I know why you resonate, why it works, because, like I said, you showed up to do the work. This is the goal. Whatever happens afterwards, and we're dealing with it then. But this conversation needs to be had. The softness and the importance of these young black girls, that story needs to be told, which is why I was saying, why I was saying about duality when you first asked, and I kind of felt angry because I was just like, when people watch this film, if I don't hear them talking about everything, I'm gonna show up at addresses. I need you to watch, honestly, I need you to watch this film and be like, yes, we're talking about the prison system, yes, we're talking about all of these things, but do you understand that this is a story about the human condition and what happens when we are separated and how that goes? You know, the young lady who, what was her name, with all the certificates?
Aubrey.
By the end, and she's just on the,
that was tough.
That was, I had to remind myself to breathe, because I was just holding my breath like, no, please, like, come, all right, bye. And I was like, yo. But when you first meet her and she's like in the sun, it goes round, and like she just,
It's the fatigue of the circumstances. And so when I do men's circle, I always talk about self-interest. So even if we're talking about gender equality amongst men, we can talk about what the impact is to women, but we can talk about what men also would then experience as a result that they're not present to. So when I was talking about men's self-interest, I was like, same thing about parenting. Like, I can say that I'm a good dad because my children, I'm gonna raise these children, and these sentences sound nice. But there has to be a motivator in here about what's happening for dads while they can walk away. And is that particular thing of like, this is why I got emotional, it's getting me now. Those particular interactions are what men don't understand. I can't go jail. Forget anything else, I can't go jail. So the other day I called police for the first time in my adult life because somebody was like threatening me while they were cutting into me while we were driving. And I had to sit there and be like, I can't drag you out of the car, actually. And my children were in the back. I was like, I actually can't. What do people do when they're actually threatened and they don't just drag people out of the
I
car.
can't even explain how I
had to call the
understand it on the
police.
spiritual level.
I was
Get it.
like, and I was like, I need to be here.
Yeah.
And so it was so powerful and moving when I saw that the choices that we have to make, and I've been fortunate to make the right choices at the right time to still be here. But that particular scene of like, I remember I spent a month in South Africa and I was trying to call my kids and I wasn't getting through to them. And I remember being on the phone like that. You know, you're like, I love you and I miss you. And they're like, yeah. They don't care.
Well, that's the thing, right? I was going to say,
doesn't matter.
on one level, she's jaded, but on another level, kids also go through these cycles. Where at some point, they're just not interested in adults.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I mean, I'm a separated dad. There's a point at which my youngest, when I'd call, she's like, but I can't see you. It's like, for her, the whole phone thing was too abstract. She needs me to be there for her to do the whole thing. So, can you imagine for a child who knows she's not going to see her father for 7 years, and the dance probably made it worse for her because she's known what it's like to hold him, and like now it's like, you know, so it's really complex. And I mean, the whole thing about who you work with, it's ultimately that. It's like, no matter the skin color of who you're working with, are they ready or living with whatever, are they ready to be held accountable?
Yeah.
And I think that's the friends, whether white, Asian, that I've kept are the ones who, if I need to question, they'll be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I realize that was wrong. I'm gonna work on that. And you see it happen.
Yeah.
And then you see them hold other people to account. I'm like, yeah, you're in the family. At the same time, I do have some black people who are like, nah, that's gonna affect my money. I'm not gonna hold them to account. I'm like, okay, you can do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stay in this lane. So it's a very complex thing, you know, and you keep talking about the human experience, and that's what it is.
These girls just needed a way to invite their fathers into their lives on their own terms.
How has Daughters changed you and inspired you?
In so many ways. I think I'll just always, and I'll just try not to cry, but I think I'll always forever be changed by the experience with the girls and like living and being with these families and just being so let in. When I was having a hard time like keeping the film going or getting really depressed and like taking so much in and not knowing how to channel that, and like Aubrey would just call me and be like, Nat, let's just go to the park, you know what I mean? Like, where are you? Let's go for a walk. And she was doing what she did to her father to me at like 5 or 6 years old. She had the wisdom to like, and the intuition to know like I wasn't feeling super well one day or we're struggling with the production. She just kind of could feel things. And so she really kept me going, and just the fact that like a child like that can feel that and bring that, it was, so beautiful. And so I just will never be the same person again after this, and being able to learn so much that I didn't know, and also I think trust that there's so much beauty when you connect on this human level of like, I need to love my parents, we deserve love, we're all children. That's how me and these fathers and these families really connected, and that there's beauty and hope in life, you know, connecting on a human level.
For me, it's a reminder. I love the fact that I was able to put forth the mission, and this is Girls for Change, which is prepare Black girls for the world and the world for Black girls. And that means that it can't just be Black women who lead that. Right. You know, like you said, everybody has to put on their boots, grab the shovel, and do the work, right? And it's not all on just the girls, as Natalie, you know, puts it so well. Like always, empowerment means the girls got to do the work. And this is always an example for me that the community can unite with, you know, programs like Girls for a Change to do the work. So I just love the fact that, you know, I don't have a mission that people have to guess what it means. They can see it, right? They can see us doing the work, literally. And then I feel like what inspires me is circles like this. Thank you, brothers, right? I am so fortunate that I can always be in rooms with, you know, with my people, right? In America, and that's why I know someone like Chad. You know, we've known each other for 30 years, and I'm always just inspired by other people's work, their vision, and my community. I feel very blessed that not only do I have my father in my life, and I can, you know, speak to that all the time, and it has guided me in so many ways, but I'm also just very fortunate to be able to have conversations that can be hard, uncomfortable, sometimes triggering, but then always get to the healing with my community in circles like this. And I just feel that everyone needs these opportunities, and that would just help them grow and develop, unlearn and learn, and understand what allyship really looks like. Right? I'm very fortunate to know the difference between someone willing to work with you and not work for you, or not tell you how to do the work. And so I'm always just inspired by that, and it keeps me up every day, and it keeps me moving, and it keeps me just full of gratitude.
Guys, thank you. If you could give me, I'm not going to give you one word, but I've got one last question to ask before we wrap.
Look at me.
I know. So give me like something, maybe a couple of words about how what Daughters has inspired in you, or the emotions it's left with you.
I mean, for me, in our kind of philosophy, children are born with knowledge, and you gain wisdom as you live, right? And I think this film was a great demonstration of that. You could see the knowledge that every one of those kids carried with them. And on a metaphoric level, I was really struck. I talked about the stripping of dignity, you know. I think what really is transformative for the fathers in there is to understand their value to their children, their daughters, is to give them their humanity back. And there's a shot where, you know, you show they've taken the clothes off after the dance, and that really moved me. It's like, you know, they're going back into nothingness, into these numbers that they've been made into. And I just felt, I mean, the two things side by side, I'm just like, you know, this, cloaks. Yeah. I'm gonna carry that.
For me, I think it's a doubling down on my commitment to men, to be honest. And I think it's an area where that taking almost the energy of it and then putting it into men, like transporting it into men, because it's not like men need to do something. It's not the answer. It's actually like, what are you missing out on in your life? And I got to remind them that, and I need to hold those spaces and change the medium sometimes in where I'm having that conversation. And it made me think about different vehicles to do that. But I understand more than ever the impact of changing how men feel, rather than just give them lots of information and knowledge about something. So really powerful.
Maybe I'll just say this. I just want to say thank you to both of you for showing Black people, Blackness in a way that I see it every day. I think very often we talk about, I talk about Blackness or think about Blackness from a space of like, God, Black people are so kind, we're so loving, and we're so giving. How do you express that? And although, yes, the stories involved are heartbreaking, throughout that, within that, you see the magic of Black people and the correct definition of resilience in that way, holding on, not just being resilient and that being used as a weapon against you, but these little girls really holding on, and their fathers really, really holding on. And that shot as well with the ties. I was like, stop. I actually paused. I was like, this is too much. But yeah, thank you for that. I hate the word representation. I've moved away from it. I am interested in reflection. In the reflection of us, not just representation, but reflection. Representation, diversity, inclusion, all of those words are very easy now. We need more. So the reflection that you showed, thank you.
For me, it is a reflection. I want to big up Natalie Rae from Milk Honey Bees, who works within our community. It's an organisation that supports young Black girls and Black women to empower them and move them forwards. I think it's really important that we champion the people doing the work already. And for me, it's the sitting alongside. So people talk a lot about the Black community. We don't have community if we're leaving the girls in our community behind. And you spoke to this a bit earlier on, the resources, the programs, so much is centered on young Black boys, but the young Black girls get left behind and forgotten about, and their trauma shows up in very different ways. So for me, it's the responsibility as a Black man within my community to not leave the girls behind, create emotional space for them, do what I need to do amongst men like myself, but also sit and work alongside the women who are doing the work, because they can't do it alone. So for me, it's community.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, guys, you are now welcome to the Blacklisted Club. What I say is blacklisted is usually seen as a negative, but we've reclaimed the word to be recognition of a life-affirming pivot. So just before we end, Natalie and Angela, some words of wisdom about a time when you felt blacklisted and when you felt the world was against you, and how you turned that moment into a positive. Quickly.
Well, when I started a program, it was unapologetic about that it was going to center self-identifying Black girls. My Southern Belle community said absolutely not, and I resisted. And I was like, watch me. And I have been standing strong in that space for 20 years. And I started my organization off of selling cupcakes, fish fries, and donuts, car washes, because one thing you said, brother, our community is magical. And I knew to go to the barbershop. I knew to go to the hair salon. I knew to go to that Baptist church. And I was like, you don't want to give me this money, but I know that we're resourceful and we can turn anything into something, right? And so I started with the resources that I had, which was my people, right? My people. Like, I had people like you that just was like, we're going to work this out. And so I started out with a 2-week camp, and now I have a full camp that happens 6 weeks. I've taken girls to Brazil. I have a building that I brought with my own money, right? I'm about to knock it down and rebuild something new. So all of those who said I couldn't because I was a Black woman, you know what they told me, sis? A white woman should do it. Because she would raise money and you couldn't, but you could work there, Angela. And not only did white people tell me that, also Black people told me that, right? And that is supposed to put nothing but fear in you. And all that did was charge my battery.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this project is definitely the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. So just in the crux of it, I definitely, you know, challenge financially, going the drive to do it, like mental health, and then also questioning if I was the right person to tell the story, and also questioned by everyone around, going like, maybe this isn't the right fit and maybe we should stop, or it's not the right, you know, you're not the right person to tell the story, or you let someone else do it. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that like the Angela and the girls and, you know, the fathers, like, or the people that we work together to keep this going. But that was, yeah, there was some really, really hard moments that we just didn't know how to move forward anymore. So I'm just super grateful that you all like kept it going with me and we're here.
Well, I'm super grateful for all of you. Richie, Kevin, Natalie, Angela, Marvyn, Nii. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
This has been Blacklisted Conversations. I'm Akua Gyamfi. Daughters will be out August 9th in UK cinemas and on Netflix August 14th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing.